Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag has refuted claims that his squad will undergo an overhaul in the summer. Well, earlier on this week, we woke up to reports from the Times saying that Manchester United, under the stewardship of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, are ready and willing to overhaul almost the entire squad, except just 3 players, in a bid to rebuild a new project. Well, the Dutch manager in Erik ten Hag has refuted all those claims, and I certainly do agree with him for a number of reasons. According to the Times report, they did say that Alejandro Garnacho, Kobbie Mainoo and Rasmus Hojlund were the 3 untouchable players at Manchester United as far as potential summer sales are concerned. So when Erik ten Hag comes out to refute this, I somehow do agree with him, and here are my reasons. Hear me out for us. First of all, I do think there are other players that Manchester United may be unwilling to sell regardless of the price that you may put on them, and one of those being Lisandro Martinez, the defender there for Manchester United, signed just 1 season ago. He has been an integral part of that Manchester United defense. Well, at least in his first season at Old Trafford, because this season he has struggled with injuries and has sort of been in and out of the team through injury. But a fully fit Lisandro Martinez sort of forms the backbone of that Manchester United defense. The other player I do think is Diogo Dalot, not because he's untouchable, but I do think he's one of those that United will be very reluctant to sell, even when a tempting bid came in. Signed by Jose Mourinho during his stint at Old Trafford, he has been one of those players that has been somehow reliable. Sometimes managers have not trusted him well enough, especially during the spell of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But for Erik ten Hag, I think he every time he has been fielded in, whether it was at right back or left back, I thought he has put in the shift for this Manchester United side. The other player is the captain, Bruno Fernandes. Yes, for everything that Manchester United have had wrong this season, Bruno Fernandes, going forward, has been one of those players that Manchester United, although those moments coming far in between, has been one of those players that they have looked onto for a bit of inspiration to help and push this team forward. Yes, for his leadership skills, he falls a little short for my mark, especially when you're in a team like Manchester United. First of all, I do think he sort of laments too much, complains a lot, or is trying to, report somebody or something to the referee instead of sometimes just getting on with the game. Try and inspire your team forward, try and galvanize your team, try to organize them, and then when it comes to again on the pitch, sometimes when they lose the ball and they are attacking them on the other side, he tends to slack a bit. Yes, he wins plenty of balls when they are up front the pitch, close to the final third, but once that ball crosses the center line, oftentimes he slacks. But I do think he's also one of those players that Manchester United would be very reluctant to sell, even when a tempting bid came. Yes, it is true that Manchester United want to embark on a fresh project and try to rebuild this team. And ever since Sir Jim Ratcliffe took 25% stake in Manchester United, which gave him a controlling interest over footballing matters at the Red Devils camp there, I do think that they will try to rebuild this squad. But as far as overhaul that squad, I think that would be a whole mountain to climb. For starters, whereas some of those players could attract interest from a good number of clubs, I do not think they will command the fee that Manchester United would be wanting to sell them at. For example, Aaron Wan-Bissaka signed from Crystal Palace for about £50 million. I do not think there is a club that is even going to come to the table offering up to £35 million. So they may have to cut their losses and say, if we get £25 million or 20 or for a dumb club that may table £30 million, considering he's considered a homegrown player or an English boy, then they may be tempted to sell. They may have to cut their losses and sell at that price. Then you have an Anthony, who up to this day, personally, as far as his Manchester United career goes, 2 seasons in, I'm not yet sure what Anthony is really good at. If you put quite a number of pundits, perhaps even fellow players at Manchester United, and put them on the spot and ask them, what is Anthony good at as far as football is concerned? I think they would struggle to give you an answer for that. Yes, he looked good in their 1-1 draw against Burnley, but I do not think that overall, on the canvas of 2 seasons, he has been a good player for Manchester United to even ponder, or even for clubs that would be interested in services to be willing to pay as high as £85 million that Manchester United paid for his signature. I do not think so, certainly. So if Manchester United are willing to let him go, again, they will have to count their losses. Harry Maguire signed for a whooping £85 million from Leicester City. I do not think he has ever been the defender Manchester United hoped he would be, or he has ever been the defender Manchester United thought they saw at Leicester City. Signed under the charges of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think it's that kind of love and hate relationship that you may find about Harry Maguire with the Manchester United fans. Some moments he's been good, including this season. For everything that has gone bad for Manchester United, I thought somehow defensively it was Harry Maguire that shined out. And in some moments, he's tried to inspire his side. I remember in their 2-1 loss against Fulham, it was him that pushed himself forward to find that equalizer, and he had gotten it, but then United threw that away. But in the build-up to that goal, for which Alex Iwobi scores, Adama Traore providing the assist, you could again blame Harry Maguire for slacking in that V1V against Adama Traore. So clearly he's that kind of player that some Manchester United fans may have mixed reactions about, especially for given that he's an England boy, very reliable for manager Gareth Southgate. Yes, oftentimes he's slumped in form and all those things, but this season, although they wanted to sell him in the summer, I thought he wasn't too bad. In any case, he was the January Premier League player of the month. So clearly that says something about him. Then, of course, then all the other players, and then the other player is Marcus Rashford. Last season scored, I think, about 30 goals in all competitions for Manchester United. This season, sort of, he went into hibernation. Yes, I get the feeling that Marcus Rashford has personal issues that he is dealing with that sort of affect the way he applies himself on the pitch. But sometimes I do not think Erik ten Hag did apply him well, especially that time when he was playing him as the direct centre forward, and yet he prefers to come off, I think, the right flank and try to make things happen, or the other flank to try and make things happen for Manchester United. So clearly, and then of course, if for the right bid, I think they would be willing to sell him. First of all, he's on very big wages, although I do not think clubs would be willing to bid him at the value at which Manchester United do think he should be at. There's that. So that's why I think he will be a hard sell as well. And then the other reason is Manchester United wouldn't want to find themselves in the position where Chelsea are. First of all, United are not sure about their own manager in Erik ten Hag, whether he should be the one to continue with this Manchester United project. They're not sure about the manager. Yes, he has guided them to the Carabao Cup triumph last season, and he has guided them to the finals of the FA Cup this season, which they could win if they can beat Manchester City in the final. So, that notwithstanding, there are still quite a number of question marks about Erik ten Hag. Yes, last season he guided them to a Champions League place, in which they are horrible this season. That put a lot of doubts on his name. This season he's failing to achieve that top 4 finish to secure a Champions League position. So there's a lot of question marks about the manager. 2, when you overhaul almost your entire squad the way Chelsea did it in a space of about 2 transfer windows, then you're destined to cause yourself problems. you all remember that Chelsea let go of the likes of Jorginho last January, then came in the summer, let go of a whole host of players, including the likes of Kai Havertz, goalkeeper Mendy, and a whole host of other players that they let go of, So in trying to have this quick rebuild of this squad, and what did they end up with? They ended up with a bunch of young players, a bunch of inexperienced players, a bunch of players that have no Premier League experience as far as the league is concerned. Then they are on very long-term contracts, high wages, and all those things. So clearly, and when it has not worked out, they are going to struggle to move on some of these players. Why? They've not yet completed paying for them. That's for starters. Two, the clubs that would want to sign them, I'm not sure would be willing to pay them as high wages as they are receiving at Chelsea. So clearly, Manchester United wouldn't want to find themselves in similar positions where you have a whole squad that is with proper lack of experience, the way Chelsea have been. Because as far as their Premier League experience goes, I felt they've lacked in that, because Conor Gallagher, who has since stepped in as captain ever since Reece James went out injured, had only had one brilliant season, which was on loan at Crystal Palace. Then you have an Enzo Fernandez, new signing, Mukalo Modric, new signing. You have, of course, you have the Malo Gusto, new signing, Axel Disasi, no Premier League experience really. You have Badiashile, no Premier League experience, Noni Madueke, Nicholas Jackson, Cole Palmer, zero Premier League experience, although he's been the bright shining armor in this Chelsea side. So then those that had experience are well out of their prime. Raheem Sterling, out of his prime, I think, in my view. Thiago Silva, very, very good player, but out of his prime, that we can all agree on. So clearly, when you look around this Chelsea side, Moises Caicedo, of course, he had Premier League experience, but he was coming from a lesser side in Brighton to a bigger team that has more pressure and all those things. So clearly, it hasn't clicked in the way Chelsea had hoped. So I get the sense that Manchester United wouldn't want to find themselves in a similar position that Chelsea find them with, as much as they would want to overhaul that squad. You go back to Manchester United, and why would you sell Andre Onana after just one season? And then who is going to pay £45 million for Andre Onana? I do not think there's quite a number of clubs that would be willing to pay that much. I do think Onana will stay. Yes, they do have to get, I think, a second goalkeeper. So they do have to look for a right back and a left back. Luke Shaw has been in and out of this team. Very decent player, but has struggled with injuries for the better part of his career. I do think at centre back, of course, they'll have to let go of Johnny Evans. I do think Rafael Varane needs to either leave this club or stay on as just a squad player that can be called upon in cup games, and if somebody is injured and all those things. That midfield needs another holding midfielder. Casemiro is good, but I do think he's in the evening of his career. And then it is too much to ask of Kobbie Mainoo to be shouldering the entire Manchester United as a team on his young shoulders. So they do need somebody in there. Christian Eriksen, I do think that one needs to be let go, and he plays possibly either in a lesser pressure team or perhaps somewhere in back in Italy or in the Major League Soccer, so to speak. So you need a creative midfielder there that can play for you that role of number 8 and number 10 at the same time, or in case Bruno Fernandes is away. So you need another striker, because Rasmus Hojlund, yes, he looks very promising, but again, you'd want somebody else to fill his void. And Anthony Martial will be leaving the club, from what I understand, at the end of this season. Then you need a winger. Of course, Jadon Sancho will be returning from his successful loan spell at Borussia Dortmund, but I do think Manchester United will want to sell him. They send him out on loan so that they can have his value back up and try to find potential buyers for him, because I do think there is a very decent player in there that perhaps could not get along with manager Erik ten Hag. And then, so you need a winger, you need another striker. Alejandro Garnacho is not enough. So Amadou Diallo, we're not sure about him. He came on in that 4-3 victory against Liverpool in the FA Cup quarterfinals, and he looked brilliant, but we do not know how far he can take Manchester United going forward, because United is a big club. They need to be fighting for trophies. They need to be building a strong project that in 3 years' time will be constantly in the UEFA Champions League, that will be knocking the likes of Arsenal, or will be knocking the likes of Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea, the Liverpools, or either off the park, or going to toe-to-toe with them. So I do certainly agree with Erik ten Hag. Lots of reports that they will try to overhaul their squad, because it is a very impossible task, unless the Saudis are willing to come and say, here is all the money you need, sell us every other player that you want away, which is not going to happen. So clearly, I do agree with manager Erik ten Hag on that view. Otherwise, do let me know what you think about that view at Manchester United, and what you make of Manchester United. What players do they need to sign in the summer? What positions should they look forward to strengthen come next summer, so that next season they are very competitive? Otherwise, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for always watching. Do not forget to subscribe if you're new. Do not forget to comment, like, and share, and I'll see you next time. Stay blessed.